Welcome and thank you all for joining us for this episode of the Crexi Podcast, an insider's look at all things commercial real estate. In this show, we cover a broad range of topics that cater to both CRE newcomers and industry leaders alike. I'm your host, Shanti Ryle, Director of Content Marketing here at Crexi, and today we are very, very excited to sit down with a legend in the industry, one Zach Molzer of Molzer Development. Before we dive in, a little bit about our guest. Zach is the founder and principal at Molzer Development, overseeing every project they do from start to stabilization and beyond. Born and raised in Kansas City, Zach's knowledge of the city, his youthful and innovative approach, which we'll get into, coupled with meaningful relationships, set him apart and are of great value to any project or partnership. Prior to starting Molzer Development, Zach oversaw acquisitions and capital raising at approximately a $120 million REPE firm. Is that correct? REPE?
Yep. Real estate
All right.
private.
I've never seen that before. We'll get into that too. Throughout his tenure, he sourced off-market deals, raised capital from retail investors, family offices, and other private equity groups. Zach has a degree from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln in business management. When he's not putting together deals, being close to his loved ones is Zach's highest priority. In his free time, you'll find him rooting for Nebraska athletics, spending time with his girlfriend Ella, exploring new spots in Kansas City, or on the golf course, tightening up his game. Zach, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Excited to be here.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you. I got to ask, this is just the weekend after 4th of July. Were you on the golf course over the weekend?
I was not on the golf course. I was actually down at the lake with some friends, on the boat, tubing. I feel like I just got done with like a wrestling match. My body's like, whoa, what are you doing? Like,
There's random bruises all over. You
oh,
don't know how
yeah.
they
I'm
got
just like,
there.
my arms can barely move. I'm just like tight. I need to go to like a chiropractor, like get a massage or something.
I know. You got to go relax after relaxing. It's
Yeah.
the curse
Yeah.
of vacations.
Yep. Exactly.
Well, awesome. Yeah, so glad to hear that. I guess we'll catch you another time on the links. If that's how you say it. I know nothing
Yep.
about golf. I
Oh,
won't
yeah.
claim to.
That was it.
But before, we get really into the nuts and bolts of our conversation, I covered your background with your bio, but I'd love to hear, more about your career path in your own words. So what first drew you to real estate in general? And then how did you find yourself going down the path of development in particular?
Yeah. I mean, so I've always loved buildings, old buildings, architecture. My stepdad's an engineer, so watching him always draw pretty pictures was always fun. Um, I think my love for real estate first came, it would have been COVID. So summer 2020, I started selling knives for Cutco. Shout out to that. A little different approach though than what most people did, knocking on their neighbor's door. I targeted business owners and real estate agents as closing gifts. My philosophy was that these people, they order in bulk. Realtors, they can order 30, 40 gifts at a time. Businesses can give out company gifts, et cetera. So I did that, sold a lot of knives throughout my 2.5 years doing that. Worked with a lot of different residential real estate agents and commercial agents. And I liked what they were doing. I didn't want to get into the residential side of buying and selling homes, just didn't really sound as fun. But I really started to love the idea of building wealth through commercial real estate, land acquisitions, buildings, et cetera. And then my sophomore year of college, I moved into a really cool adaptive reuse building. This guy took an old warehouse and converted it to 16 lofts. It's nothing special, but I loved it. If I still lived in Lincoln, Nebraska, I would still be living there. And I thought, why can't I create this on a macro scale, not just in my city back home, but throughout the entire country? So that's what kind of shifted that focus there. Added another major of urban planning at the University of Nebraska and graduated in 3, and here we are now.
Wow. Okay. Hustled on through academia to get
Yeah.
moving. I love
I
that.
had I had a lot of fun in my 3 years.
Yeah.
It was time for me to go.
Yeah. Yeah. You had stuff to do, as we will get into. So, started in real estate. So that's genius, by the way. So
It was
we
cool.
know you're going to want these knives to use. So let me just get you some bulk deals. That's very, very, very smart. Um, so fascinated by the tangible creativity of commercial real estate. You moved your way through college, got ready to hit the ground running. So, per your bio, started in capital raising, more on the acquisition side. Did you always know, like, you were on your track to development and this was how you were gonna get there?
Yeah,
Did you kinda have to oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
let's hear about the strategy of choosing capital raising and acquisitions as your vehicle to getting to development then.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways, obviously, to get into development. And I know we'll talk about later, like what some of the misconceptions about development and stuff are. But there's obviously a lot of different ways to skin a cat. And so my philosophy was, I wanted to start at a smaller firm where it was more boots on the ground and throw into the fire and figure it out. So I worked with two brothers, primarily down in Tulsa. We did everything from self-performing our general construction, our general contracting, our operations, finding the deals, closing on the deals, lending on the deals. We did everything. It was just me and two brothers. So when I first started, it was just go away, Godspeed, figure it out. So that was really fun. It was obviously you had to learn really quick, and also you got to experience all different sides of the business. And while I was doing that, I'm always good. I love to talk. I'm good at networking, good at meeting different people. But more importantly, I love the construction side of things a lot, and the development and actually creating housing and creating neighborhoods. And so that's really what I kind of shifted my focus because they weren't really focused a whole lot on development. It was more stabilized deals, et cetera. But we did two projects down in Tulsa that were both heavy construction jobs that running the draw process for, overseeing all the construction. And that was a kind of a pivotal moment for me of like, all right, this is what I want to do. And eventually it took me about a year and a half and finally just said, screw it, and go bet on myself and go figure it out.
Mhm.
So I left in February of 24, started Molzer Development. And a year and a half later, we've got 50 million under construction currently, with a lot more in the pipeline.
That's amazing. And, just for listeners who maybe not aren't aware, development is one of the more notoriously challenging corners of commercial real estate because there is so much risk and the rewards are huge if you know how to assemble the right team and effectively get everyone across the finish line. But,
Herding cats.
there's hurting cats, absolutely. But there's a reason, there's not many developers out there. There's a lot at stake. There's a lot of risk involved, and there are a lot of ropes to learn, honestly. So tell me about, you just knew you were set on this course. You knew what you wanted to do, and at a pretty young age, you're just like, screw it. I'm gonna just jump into the fire. Why not?
Yeah.
What What do you think about either your personality or maybe skills you learned even selling knives? Like gave you the confidence to just go, "I'm gonna do this." And how did you set yourself up for success when you just jumped in feet first?
Yeah, I mean, I've always just been a confident person. There's no such thing as being overly confident,
Mhm.
and I think that's a huge advantage I have as a young person, and especially in today's society where most people don't even show up. So showing up's half the battle. But yeah, I mean, I know my ability to put together a team and know my ability to be able to get things to the finish line. At the end of the day, like development's not hard. It's obviously risky and there's a lot of moving parts, but it's not necessarily hard if you have a good head on your shoulders and you have people that
Mhm.
that trust you, believe in you, and listen to you. That's really important. Especially that was probably the biggest barrier to get over at first. Is people just listening to you. As a 23-year-old walking into city council meetings, like, "Hey, no, I'm doing this project. Okay, buddy, like, have fun." And then,
Pats on head.
yeah, then 9 months later to have a wall breaking ceremony with 300 people there, leaders of the city talked about your project. Of like, "Yep, it's happening, guys. By the way, so you're
Yeah.
curious." But
How
yeah,
do you think you got them to support you, I guess, for lack of a better word, with not as much
talk
of a
is
track
cheap.
record
People
being so
people can
young?
talk, people can say that they're doing things, but I think by actually showing it is a little bit different. That's kind of my approach of like the building in public, of showing people exactly what's going on behind the scenes, the good, bad, the ugly, the fun. So I think a pivotal moment for the city and for other people to really like understand, okay, he knows what's going on, was at that wall breaking ceremony on January 22nd, where we kicked off everything. All of our financing was closed, building was closed. I mean, we started demolition. I think it was a full fledged $37 million project that was hitting the ground running. With again everyone there, it was like, all right, wow, this is happening. That was a big moment for us and the whole team.
Yeah. I wanna pinpoint something you said, building in public.
Yeah, building in public.
What does that mean?
Just development is normally a very hush hush world. People don't like talking about it. People don't show what's going on. You're bound by NDAs and the misconception of, oh, I don't want to talk about my deal because I don't want people to know how much money we're making, etc. At the end of the day, I think that by opening yourself up to the public and saying, hey, here's the project, here's what's going on, here's the dollars that we're investing in the community. Here's what the community is going to get out of it. Yes, we need your help, whether that be the form of tax incentives, whether that be just your overall support, not wanting to bring pitchforks to a neighborhood meeting. That, but then also educating people of like how the different processes and development works. It's not overly complicated, but there are a lot of moving parts. And then lastly, I think the biggest part is like showing people that you can just do things. You don't need permission. Anybody can do things. You just have to have the right mindset and again, the ability to put together the right team.
Yeah, absolutely. And, for those who don't know, the reason I called him a legend is because Zach is very, very active and present and engaged with the community on commercial real estate social media channels. And if you look him up, you absolutely will see every single day you're posting videos, walkthroughs. There's you in a hard hat
Oh
on
yeah.
your way to some development site. It's very, very high visibility. So I'm curious, how did this idea come to you of being publicly facing like this? And how did you get around maybe the naysayers, maybe people in your camp that were like, "What are you doing? Why would you do this? You do have NDAs." You know, how did you think about navigating those maybe not even really tangible roadblocks and
Yeah.
building up your social media strategy?
I mean, I think the first like, I was obviously sharing about my projects and things like that, because I just jumped out on my own, and then I went to the real estate gala last year, and that was when I had my incident of me dying with food poisoning at the airport, and that was, like, the first moment of me going viral and me being truly authentic, and I was like, "Well, wow, if people are like, think this is funny and are following me because of that, wait till they find out what I'm actually doing." And so the
Mm.
tweet was great where it was, "Kid dies at the airport," and then, "Oh, okay, kid also is doing a 16-story historic tax credit project in the heart of the city he grew up in." It was a it the snowball effect was real. So it was great timing. Still wouldn't wish it on anyone, but that was like
I
the
was
first
gonna say,
moment.
would you
Yeah.
eat bad food again for another
No,
deal?
no, would not. It was not fun. But that was really cool. Again, to step into the transparency, the open, the honest, to then piggyback that off of actually what I'm doing, building in my development company. So that was like the first moment of yes, you can do this. You can build in public. You can show people. And at the end of the day, like I don't get any pushback from people of like building in public necessarily. Like some people, they don't want to be on camera. Fine, you don't need to be on camera. That's totally chill with me. But there's nothing that I'm sharing that I can't share because I know what I can and can't share. Like I'm not going to go out and talk about, hey, here's this, what's going on, behind the scenes, X, Y, Z. I'm not going to talk about it. I talk with the people that I've brought on to help me build Molzer Development, and I say like we can share problems that go on like within the development process and all that, but we cannot share a problem unless we already know the solution because then it actually is a problem.
Mm,
If I post a video saying, "Oh my gosh, this is bad. Look what's happening." I already found the solution. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking about it because if I don't have a
mhm.
solution, then it's a real problem that could obviously hurt returns and the whole feasibility of a project.
Sure. It's more of an educational opportunity because
Correct.
everything has been finalized as opposed to,
Yes.
"Oh, crap, like, here's a real situation I'm in.
Yeah.
I'll hopefully figure it out." You don't need to be that vulnerable because other people's dollars are at play, absolutely. I'm curious, other than the food poisoning photo, and that example of being really vulnerable with your audience, is there anything that surprised you about being so public facing with your development projects? And to kind of follow up with that, I'm curious if you have any thoughts about what changing the nature of the relationship between developers and the communities they're building in and they're serving means within the dynamic of social media and that kind of network and engagement.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's never been a movie out there that portrays the developer as the good guy, and most people just go into these community meetings not understanding what it looks like to even get a project across the finish line or heck even started. They're just like, "Oh, you're gonna tear down these homes and just build here." It's like, "Yes, here's what it looks like. Here's why we're doing it." Like people want to feel like their voice is heard and be educated. And that's the approach I'm taking where it's like, "Hey, here's what we're gonna do. Start at the high level and then let's back into it. Let me help teach you." Some people are never gonna understand it, nor do they ever want to. They just think all buildings and everything's bad. But helping shape the fabric of a community is huge and asking people what they want or what they like and then showing them, hey, here's what that could do or here's what that could look like. It also helps, with the projects that I have going on of both being in the urban downtown core, the pitch is a little bit easier in a sense, from a neighborhood standpoint of, hey, it's an old vacant building. It's not generating any taxes right now. What are we doing here? It makes the asks a little bit easier. But at the end of the day, people follow people and people follow stories. And I feel like what we're building right now at Molzer Development is a pretty cool story.
Absolutely, and we'll get into those stories down here in a little bit. But I'm curious, you in our prep call for this, you mentioned you got a lot of inbound messages,
Um,
just yeah, constantly, right? So I'm curious, what do you think? You mentioned stories, people love people. From, kind of an maybe an inspirational standpoint, like, what are people asking you about in
advice.
these
How did
messages?
you do this? How did you do that? Like, what can I do to help get in your shoes? And can I come work for you? And things like that. And I think my piece of advice to everyone's generally the same, mostly because I don't have time to respond to everyone. It's just
Mhm.
like find the right people, find people that will support you both professionally and personally. And it'll open up a lot of doors. Be yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
So, I'd love to pull back the curtain. The day-to-day of the development process. I've been recently, like, really doing a lot of my own research. I've been in, Bethany Babcock's class, like, learning a lot more just about development, about everything that goes into it, and oh my gosh, it is the most insane process. Like, I have such respect for you and other developers in the community doing what you do because it's at the end of the day, you're creating something out of nothing.
Yeah.
Just a vision that becomes something very tangible that, again, serves its community. So, starting at the very beginning, how do you find a deal? What makes a good deal to you? How do you think about this is where I want to invest all this cash and time?
That's a tough one. I mean, because obviously you have developers and people investing in communities all across the country.
Mhm.
I think the first part is knowing your market. I think that's really, 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 really important. I know Kansas City like the back of my hand. I have Snapchat, and you can see on there like how much of a city or whatever you've explored. And I've explored 99.3% of Kansas City as a whole.
Wow.
I've been everywhere, every block. I walk all the time. I want to know exactly what neighborhood I'm in. So then it makes it a lot easier when I'm pitching investors, lenders, or even potential sites to know, okay, here's exactly what's going on there. Here's the problems with that site. Here's the good parts of the site. Here's what I think is going to eventually happen. Here are the different things that are in planning around the site. Here are the different developers that are looking at things. Here's the public-private partnerships that have gone on over here. Here's what is going to go on over here. Here's what the city is looking at investing in. So knowing your market's huge, and obviously that's a widespread depending on exactly where you're developing. Um, that'd be the first part. Is so knowing exactly like what the area you want to invest in looks like and how
Mm.
those numbers correlate, if they're growing, if they're not growing, all that fun stuff. And then after that, that's where it gets trickier. Is like the two projects that I have going on right now that are under construction are both adaptive reuse. They're both over 100-year-old buildings
Mm.
that we're converting into some sort of housing slash mixed use development. Those it's a little bit simpler in a sense of I look at it from basically three main standpoints: is a what does the area look like? Do I believe in the area is going to continue to grow? Is it already in a good area? Is it ever going to get worse? Because at the end of the day, like location, you can't change location, but location can change, and so you want to
Mm.
make a strategic bet on that without being too risky in a sense. And then most important for these older buildings types is what is your basis? Not necessarily what are you buying the building for, but what is your basis after just the to get the building as a regular building. So, example being, let's say you could buy a building for $1 million, but you need to spend $1 million on structural repairs. You need to spend $1 million on masonry repairs, and a couple other 100 grand doing something else. Well, then your basis really isn't $1 million. Your basis is like two and a half. So you
Mm.
need to know that going in. So, what is your actual basis of the building? And that requires a lot of due diligence up front, especially with these older building types. So once you figure that out, then those are the two things that really drive the deal because obviously you already did the research and back end homework of knowing what the area looks like, what you think you get in rents, what all the pro formas look like. You just need to know if the building is going to fall down.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's also such an interesting game of timing because like you said, you do have to know what market conditions are. They can change pretty quickly or not so quickly, depending on like what specific factor you're looking at.
Yeah.
But then, once you put in the LOI, then it's the
Go
race to the
time.
finish of you need to do all the due diligence. You need to, like you said, know what your basis is, figure out where the financing is coming from, make sure all the surveys support what you think you need in terms of financing,
Yep.
then get the financing, then close the deal. So it's all these like
Going through it right
juggling
now.
pieces. Huh?
Yes, I'm going through that right now. I'm closing on my
Yeah,
second
yeah,
building
it's
in
a ton.
3 weeks.
And not least of which, you have to deal with cities and planning boards.
Those are
Bureaucracy is a whole other part of the ball game. So, how do you approach just dealing with, those boards, their timelines? Are they inclined to say yes, say no? Like, how do you manage the political side of the development process?
It's funny, I put people in 3 buckets. You either love the politics side and you're good at it, you love the politics side and you're bad at it, or you hate the politics side and you're bad at it. Or you hate the politics side and you're good at it, I guess.
It's
That's
a
all the same
quadrant.
category. I really like it. I think it's fun. Again,
Mhm.
I like to talk, and I feel like I'm halfway decent at it. I mean, the Aladdin, for example, was one of the largest public-private partnerships that's gone on in the city in the past decade. The Holtman Building will be another one, another larger one. Not nothing crazy, but the Aladdin was a very big deal. It was working with the city on their existing parking garage, not creating any more parking. Us working on negotiating a large lease with them so our residents had parking at a sustainable rate that kept things affordable for residents. On top of that, working with other tax jurisdictions to get a tax abatement in place and set up with our local financing community. And there was a lot of moving parts for that. Um,
Mhm.
that was more challenging with the Aladdin, A, because it was a bigger project, and B, because we were younger. Now that we're doing this process again with my next project, it's a lot easier because
Mm.
I've already proved out that we can do it and that we know what the hell's going on. And so they understand that as well. They're like, oh, well, these guys were they're awesome, awesome to work with because if we have questions, they're going to answer them and they're going to walk us through. Like the Aladdin was the first project that Port KC issued tax abatements for. That was a historical tax credit project.
Hmm.
You had to do a lot of educating with them on what that looks like. Hey, Zach, why are the fees like this? Well, it's because it's not really a fee; it's a deferred fee. It's not really paid out. It's a cash flow sweep because you don't want the tax credit investor to make money because that's the whole point of tax credits is to show no income. Like they like that of being able to educate them. So then when it comes time for a simpler project like the Holtman, where it's just pretty standard, 40,000 square foot industrial building that we're turning into lofts and retail, it's a lot easier. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's cake. And I think
Mm.
building those relationships with those people have been awesome. I'm very close with the mayor, very close with the city manager, very close with all the council members. And that's been huge.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's again, it kind of goes back to the same thing you're doing with social media. It's providing that education as a means to form the relationships and show that you're someone they can trust and will add value to their communities.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. So, a first project takes a lot of extra oomph to build those relationships and provide that education. How did you think about keeping pushing forward when maybe other people working on this project would have decided to walk away? Like, there
I mean,
maybe is a point that it wasn't worth it.
at the time we closed on the Aladdin, it was sink or swim. Like we already had millions of other people's money. Like it was there'd be problems that we would face, and it would be like, okay, like time to go figure out how to do that. I mean, that's the beauty of like I tell people, you learn the most by doing.
Mm,
So if you want to learn something, yes, you can go to school for it. You can read a book. You can go work for someone, but you want to learn the most, go just do it. And we're blessed that we had 32 people that trusted us to go do it. But yeah, I mean, it was sink or swim. There's no backup plan, right? And I think
yeah.
that's important in a sense because where others would have been, okay, gosh, that's a problem. You know what? It's not worth the time. Let's just drop it and go to the next one. For us, it was cool. That's a pretty big problem. Let's go figure out how to do that. I
Mm,
mean, at the end of the day, with the Aladdin, we bought a building that we had a fairly good idea that didn't have any structural problems, that didn't have any environmental problems, but had no parking, was 100 years old, um, was completely vacant for 4 years. I mean, there were so many unknowns, and we need to get a tax payment. We need to get a parking agreement. We need to line up our store tax credits, find a buyer for the state and federal funds. We need to raise another $6 million. We need to go find someone that can help sign on $30 million of personally guaranteed debt because God knows I don't have that much money. It's like there were so many things that we didn't know, that we knew that we needed to get, but didn't have. And it was, hey, we're going to go do this. I put together a team that we can go and figure this out on this timeline, and this is what the returns and everything could look like. Do you trust that we can figure it out? And we got 32 people that said, Godspeed, let's do it.
awesome. Team. Building the team. My
Building a team.
next question for you. So important. That's what you said. You say to everybody, find the right people, surround yourself with them. Who are your developer Avengers
Oh yeah,
when you're
I've got a few.
working on a
Talk about.
project?
I'm working with Freehill Capital from the Chicago area, so it's Max Sheebley, Hunter Lean, and Ben Gordon. They've been awesome. I reached out to them. I actually met them through Twitter about 2.5 years ago, and I reached out to them when I was looking at the Aladdin and said, "Hey, I've done the historic tax credit projects before, but not at the level that Max had. He worked at a larger firm in Milwaukee." Said, "Hey, I'd love for you guys to come down and help me with this thing." And before even looking at the building or anything, they were like, "All right, let's do it." So it was actually both of our first projects ever, but not just development, but in general, out on our own, starting our own firms. So brought them on board, and then brought on Joe Christensen and Adam Schaefer from Cardinal Crest. They're a local general contracting firm, home builders, and really just understand the whole construction side of things. Where they're not the GC for this project, but in a way, it's like having two GCs or having someone be able to fact check things or ask those questions that
Mm,
you only know because you're in the business for so long. Like again, I could read a lot of books about what things, how things work, how does the electric system work, how does our plumbing stack work, why does the hole need to go right there as opposed to right there? You could read about that, and I've learned a lot, and I could put myself in pretty much any room and talk about it. However, you only know so much as you know, right? Uh,
mhm.
Having Joe and Adam on board was huge as it pertained to negotiating our GMPs, as we're going through our construction draws, and just the ongoing process of getting this thing finished. So that is our master team behind the Aladdin. It's a three-headed dragon per se. It's been all things full steam ahead, chugging along.
Yeah, I love it. And who, not any particular names, but like in a typical redevelopment project, what other people would you want to bring on to complement your expertise? And
Yeah,
I'm
I
sure
mean,
it's
that's
project
just from the
dependent, but like
GC
who else
side.
would
I
you
mean,
think
I've
of?
had to bring on architect. I mean, architect, engineers, planning department, city council, the general contractor. I mean, it's the whole shebang. Like for example, when we first approached the general contractor that we wanted to work with, I brought them probably half the subcontractors, saying, "Here's the subs that we're using. I vetted them out without you here. I know that
Mm,
these guys are going to be the ones to get the job done." And they were like, "Well, that's kind of interesting. Like, I've never had a 23-year-old tell us who we're using for subs, but all right." I was like, "These are the guys," and they're like, "No, we agree. Those have been the first phone calls we made. It's just impressive that you guys got to that before us." Um,
mm,
I, just you do your homework and do your research, and you find the right people that again believe in you, and um, good things happen. Can
yeah.
happen.
How do you do your homework? What does that look like for you? I'm very curious.
Just insert yourself into every situation. I mean, I'd like to think that at one point in my life, I want everybody in Kansas City to know who Zach Molzer is and what Molzer Development is and what it's about. And it's a slow process. Obviously, you have the social media side of things, you have the city side, and then you have just being out and about, asking the right questions, meeting with. I mean, there's so many different subcontractors and people that can do construction out there. It's not overly complicated. At the end of the day, you have to trust the person um,
Mm,
and the company. It's both.
yeah.
I feel like you don't want to make a decision on like who you're using as a GC or as a sub based on the owner because ideally you never see the owner because the owner is running a company. They are not on the site doing installation of your piping. You
Mhm,
want to know damn well who the superintendent is, who the project manager is, and their ability to execute and lead a team just like yourself. Because at the end of the day,
mhm.
they're just an extension of you. And so if they don't know what the hell's going on or they don't have that sense of urgency or sense of the budget, then you're failed from day one.
Yeah, absolutely. You gotta be willing to get in the building with a hard hat, be there, know what's going on, talk to these
That's
people.
why I'm there every day. I'm there at least
Yep.
2 hours a day walking through. Some days I walk in, I have no idea what the hell I'm looking at. Other days I know exactly what I'm looking at, and it's been pretty fun.
And you learn every day too. That's what I
Exactly.
think is so cool about this industry in general is just it's always something different every
Yes.
day.
I've learned more about
So
structural
much to learn.
reinforcement and slab concrete in the past 2 months than I ever even dreamed of.
Yeah, I didn't even know there were like what, 5, there's probably more than 5, but like 5 main different types of how buildings are erected
Yeah.
in the first place, and oh my gosh, there's so much in there. Um, going back to more of the public and, municipal relationship side of things, you know, you're on the hook, like you said, for a lot of other people's money. How do you balance the financial considerations of tackling a development project where you do need to guarantee a certain amount of returns for your investors with the community impact you're hoping to make and that you pitch the city and its community on?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a balance game. Like when I guess like for the two projects that I'm doing right now, they're again different just because it's adaptive reuse and you're buying a building that's old and vacant and then breathing new life into it. And on that front, it's a little simpler to be able to be like, hey, not a whole lot like from the naked eye, nothing's changing. Still, this building's still going to be there. It's just going to have a different use. So it's a
Mhm.
little bit easier for the people that are normally opposed to projects and things like that. It's a lot easier for to be like, there's not, you would never know anything's happening here outside of I'm going to have the lane closed for the next 2 years. Otherwise than
Mhm.
that, you're not going to notice anything. So like those projects is a little bit easier in a sense from, you don't have to like paint necessarily the narrative or the picture of, oh, here's what it's doing. It's the building's vacant and now I want to make it not vacant. Are you mad
Yeah.
about that? No? Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Good. We're on the same page.
Yeah.
Versus I'm working on a couple other projects that are vacant land or infill development projects they're a little challenging, a little more they're just different. You need the neighborhoods in some of these areas that we're looking at developing in. They don't like change, and I think that it
Mhm.
sometimes because you need to educate people on what change looks like, getting their opinion and feedback on, hey, this is positive change. Here's what this could mean for you and what it means for the community. But at the end of the day, if you left every decision up to neighborhoods, then there would not be building any. No one would be built. There would be no buildings.
Yeah,
You know?
there's a reason there's NIMBY.
Yes, exactly.
It
There's
exists.
so I think balancing that of like, I'm not necessarily just pro development, build anywhere you want. I think that they need to be thoughtful. They need to be designed correctly. They need to fit the massing. But at the end of the day, I do know at the same time we have a housing problem throughout the country, and the only way to solve that is to build. And
Mhm.
it's unfortunate that some people don't understand that.
Mm. Yeah, which is why the social media and the public
Correct.
education component is
Just
so
yeah,
much
just being able
part
to
of what you're
educate people.
doing.
Hey, here's what when the Aladdin turns online, we're gonna have 122 apartments. It means about 150 people are gonna be living at the Aladdin. 150 people that aren't living downtown right now anyway. Here's what that looks like on the back end. These people are making X amount of money a year. Well, in Kansas City, Missouri, we have an additional 1% tax, so that means it's gonna bring in this much more money for the state. On top of that,
Mhm.
these people spend about X amount a year, and now they're spending it not in the suburbs or not anywhere else. They're spending it downtown. Therefore, the local tax jurisdictions are making more money. The schools are making more money. But in order to get that, I need a tax abatement in order to help offset some of these costs to bring this building back to life because it's vacant, it's old, and it needs work. And so
Yeah.
I think being able to educate people on that has been really cool. I think we'll start to see the rewards of that here in about a year once the Aladdin opens up.
Awesome. Yeah, I heard a quote the other day that was something along the lines of like your home and my home are constantly trying to fight their way back into the dust of the earth or something like that. It's
That's
just the
cool.
nature of buildings that they do age, they do degrade, and you do have to keep improving them to make sure that they stay, structurally sound and just able to do what you want them to do or do something new like what you're doing. Um, so on top of working on these projects, which is so much work. You're also building a business from scratch, your own development firm. So, how are you thinking about not only, you know, actively working on these projects, but scaling up, building out your team, taking on new projects, finding new deals to work on? What strategy is behind those decisions you're making?
Yeah, I mean, sustainable and thoughtful growth. I mean, I obviously the Aladdin's a big project. My second one will be about a $7 million project. We've got a couple other larger ones in the pipeline. I think the biggest challenge with starting a business and starting a development company on something that doesn't generate money until they're done is the cash, 100%.
Mhm.
So the way that I've helped structure things in order to help bridge that is I obviously you need fees. You have to have fees in order to live and eat. I don't want any fees on the back end. So the way I structure it is I we need something in order to keep the ship floating and keep it moving. At the end of the day, if you're going to trust me with, let's say, $2 million to get this project started and completed, but I can't do it all by myself, then you're setting me up for failure, and then in a sense, setting yourself up for failure. Well, let's structure it in a way where it's in a less I get less upside, but there is at least a built-in level of called a salary where I can eat and make sure that
Mhm.
the projects can get completed from start to finish. So
Mhm.
I always tell investors when I'm pitching them, for like especially right now, it's pretty simple. I want them to make a disgusting amount of money, especially in my first dozen projects, because they're always going to come back to me because, and I'm always going to want them because they bet on me early on. So the
Mm.
way that I have the split structured, and that's the other way that people are like, well, why the hell would someone give a 24-year-old millions of dollars? It's like, that's why, because I understand that the risk that they're taking is not only just the development risk, but they're also taking the risk of, can this dude execute? I value that. I say, great, I'm going to give them a greater return and a greater percentage
Mhm.
ownership in this project because of that. And I see that they're taking that risk in me and they're betting on me. Therefore, they're going to get compensated for it.
Yeah.
I think that's one other way that people can learn to help bridge the gap. And again, going back to the point of development's not hard and like you can just do things. You can get into it. You just have to be smart enough to know how to structure it and find the right people that also believe in that same vision. You got to have vertical integration.
Yeah. I'm curious, did you like get to that point of negotiation, or was that something like this is,
Yeah. I mean,
philosophically this is
I started out like that, and that's how I first started out
Mm.
with the Aladdin project, and then the Holtman. With the Holtman, I originally went out and pitched 3 investors, and they're all going to be investors in the project. And I was like, "Hey, here's the deal. Here's what I need in overhead in order for me to have this. I have to bring 2 more people onto my staff, and we're going to keep growing, and obviously that's going to continue to grow and grow. But in order for us to do this project, I need this." I go, "It's not a lot." I go, "In return, I'm going to give up X amount more ownership on the back end than I would have.
Mhm.
However, in year 5, I want the option to buy you out at fair market
Mm.
value, but I want to be able to have that option to buy back my ownership that I'm giving you back up on the front end to keep me afloat." They all of
Mm.
them are like, "That's kind of badass." They're like, "Hey, you're
Yeah.
basically saying, Zach, when you're right, you're gonna make a lot of money, but until then, we're gonna make a lot too." Like, what? Well, there's no. They're like, "We can't lose in this situation." I was like, "Okay, wrong. Technically, you can always lose. I mean, there's nothing that I have to say that."
But you
But
want them to feel that way.
it was true. It's exactly how they felt. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
again, vertical integration of having everyone's incentives aligned
Mhm.
was important. And my incentive is, hey, I need to make sure that Molzer Development's here in at least 2 years, so I can have this project finished, go through the finish line. And you're incentivized to make sure that Molzer Development's here in 2 years because you're giving me money to do so. So getting on the same, everyone on the same page, it just takes it takes open and honest conversations, and you knowing your shit
Sure.
to have those conversations. Because if you don't know what you're talking about, then how can you have those conversations?
Yeah, 100%. And, I think it's a very interesting and inspiring, and hopefully our listeners listening into this, like, curious about maybe getting into development can, like, you know, explore that. Just, like, thought experiment, how would this work for them? Because I think, at the end of the day, all deals come down from an alignment of goals
Yes.
and intentions, and, the way you're doing it for these initial projects is in such a way that just the chutzpah of
Yeah.
proposing something like this, honestly, is enough
When I have
to
in
inspire that
20 years from
confidence.
now, in 20 years when I'm 40 and I have a 20-year track record and I've done half a billion or $1 billion worth of development projects, yeah, the returns and splits are going to look a little different because it's like,
Mhm.
hey, you're now not only, yes, you're still investing in theory riskier asset class of development, but you're doing it with a guy who's executed on 20 years worth of projects. It's just different,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But I guess I have the emotional intelligence to understand that they're taking 2 risks and therefore should be compensated because of that.
Sure. Yeah, it's playing the long game. It's
Yeah.
playing the long game, which is what
Most
development's
people
all
most
about.
people my age do not like doing that. They just want to, I'm gonna make it's funny, I just recorded a video last week that we'll post later this week. It's like, "I'm 24 years old, and here's how I made $5 million in a week." And then the next clip is like, "All right, now that I've got your attention, I did not make $5 million in a week. Actually, I'm actually $35 million in debt."
This is
But
not
it's
syndication,
funny,
folks.
the sad part is, like, that hook is gonna get people to watch because there's, so many people that they think that they can do that overnight, and it just maybe I'm doing something wrong, but, you definitely can't do that overnight in development. It's a
Well, just
long game.
you literally cannot build a building overnight,
No, I mean, unless
period.
someone knows, yeah, I mean, there's no one else doing it anywhere else, unless someone's shipping something from Mars that I don't know about, it takes a little bit of time
Well,
to
we'll
build
see.
something. Yeah,
Could be. Maybe 50 years in the future, we'll get to that point.
that'd
Just
be kinda
3D
cool.
print. Well, we are 3D printing buildings right now, but not historical buildings.
No, can't,
Um,
it's hard to replicate.
yeah, absolutely. And, I'm curious, kind of
You can't replicate the history, so.
no, no, definitely not. And I'm curious, looking ahead, from a business perspective, is Molzer Development looking, do I want to keep doing historical adaptive reuse? Do I
Yeah, I
want to
mean,
do
my goal is to always have at least 1 historic taxpayer project going on at a time. I don't want more than 1, because
Mhm.
they're a lot, and there's just a lot of they take a lot more cash than just traditional ground up deals,
Mm,
especially on the front end, the pre-development, the legal fees, all the soft costs, everything up front. But we'd love to always have one going on at a time. So
mhm,
right now, Molzer Developments, we're looking for our next Aladdin in a sense, our
mm,
next large scale store tax credit project, 30 to 75 million. So trying to find that right now. Herding through the cats of that. We've got a
mm,
couple good ideas on some fun ones that could be cool. Um,
yeah.
and worth the investment, obviously. Outside of that, I mean, anything end use multifamily is really what we're focused on. Infill. I have 3 different townhome projects that I'm working on. Those range from 12 units to 140 units, all
Mm,
early in the stage of that. Wouldn't break ground until at least one of them might break ground Q1 of next year, but the other ones would be later next year. But yeah, I mean, there's only so many old buildings, and there's only so many that fit the mold of like what I think could work, right? But at the end of the day, it all comes back down to my first point is basis. Is cool building great. I'm not doing this just because it's trendy and fun. Like I want to make money, my investors want to make money, and I want to help shape the neighborhood fabric, but still has to make sense. Not just
mhm.
buy old buildings, just like, oh, look at that. This is a cool gargoyle. I want to buy that.
Yeah, when your net worth is, like, several $1 billion and you can't
That's no,
just do that.
honestly, that's what I want to do. When I've got to that point, I want to just buy buildings and rehab them for fun, like, and just
Yeah,
give them back to the community. That would
yeah.
be like the end goal.
Development's so cool. I definitely have a very strong affinity, coming from more of, like, a creative background, very strong affinity for development. So, you've been to 93% of Kansas City, born and
Yeah.
raised there, love the town. Let's talk about the
But
market.
all right.
What
What do you
is
want to know?
happening? What's going on?
There's a lot of city-led projects going on right now, and Kansas City is in a shift over the past 2 years of lots of projects starting. You have the South Loop project, which is going to cap our highway, adding a beautiful park there. Barney Alice, a $120 million revitalization of a park downtown. You have the West Bottoms undergoing a $600 million redevelopment. The Berkeley Riverfront, $800 million. We have the first women only built soccer stadium, CPKC. There are talks of the Royals moving downtown, the Chiefs moving. There are a lot of development projects happening. The streetcar just got expanded 3.4 miles that will connect the plaza. New ownership just bought the plaza and is looking to invest over $1 billion into the plaza over the next couple of years. So there's tons of different public-private partnerships
Mm,
happening in Kansas City. We still need more. Kansas City is short over 30,000 homes right now as it pertains to just in the downtown urban core. So we need more apartments. We need more retailers. We need more jobs. Uh, I think Kansas City is ripe for growth and ripe to explode. To be
yeah.
completely frank, I don't. I hate. I hate comparing things. It's just not my vibe. Reason for that is like Roy McIlroy. He won the 2014 U.S. Open, and after he won, he won the Open and then he won the U.S. Open. And a reporter asks him because I mean, dude was 24 years old. He was winning majors. He goes, "How does it feel to be the next Tiger Woods?" And Roy goes, "I don't want to be the next Tiger Woods. I want to be the first Roy McIlroy." So the reason I say that is like I don't want Kansas City to be the next Dallas or the next Nashville. I want to be Kansas City. But if I were to compare it in terms of a state where I think it is, I think Kansas City is very similar to where Dallas was in 1991. I think Kansas City
Mhm.
is very similar to where Nashville was about 15 years ago. And I think that we're just on the cusp of things really getting crazy here. We're
Yeah.
hosting the World Cup next summer, summer 26. We have 8 games projected to
We're
bring in
right after you. LA's next.
650,000 visitors across 40 days.
Yeah.
Economic impact of over $8 billion for our city. There's a lot of things going on and a lot of big momentum drivers that I think could help change the narrative. And if people don't get in early and get in now, then they're going to be missing out because I mean, we're already seeing one of the highest rent growths in the country right now at 5%. There's a lot going for it.
Sure. What's going on in the public sector from a regulatory perspective? You mentioned a lot of private public partnerships. What is KC doing differently that's getting these projects off the ground and making it such a viable, soil ground for these projects?
Kansas City is finally starting to shift their narrative and from a city standpoint and a council standpoint and city officials to understand that incentives are not taking money away from the tax jurisdictions; it's reallocating them. And what the benefit does at the end of the day is help build your city and build your community. So understanding and being able to leverage different tax increment tools, tax abatements to help projects get across the finish line they've started to shift over the past couple of years on putting a heavier emphasis on that and understanding that projects aren't going to happen unless they have those.
Mm,
It's not happening. I mean, construction
sure.
costs are at an all-time high, and those aren't going down. Interest rates are high, depending on who you ask. I don't care what anyone says if they're going down or up; doesn't really matter.
Mhm.
But current climate, construction costs high, interest rates high, land values are high. Well, then how the hell do you build anything? You have to have something that can help fill that gap, and Kansas City's been doing a good job over the past 2 years or so of helping fill that. We obviously have more room for growth. There's a lot of things that I wish we could change about Kansas City that we could help learn and grow and adapt. And I hope to be a part of that over the next 50 years or however long I live.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was gonna ask what, if any, impact are interest rates and, things
Interest
like
rates definitely matter.
inflation.
I mean, you
Yeah.
definitely have more building, but like Kansas City, the two biggest things holding Kansas City back is more jobs and crime. That's it. If we could
Mm,
solve that, which I think they're directly correlated, um, even if the crime isn't necessarily bad, which I don't believe it is, but from a perception, it is. If you solve
mm.
that perception, then I think you get more jobs. You get more jobs, you get more people, more housing, stimulated economy.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you just gotta get the gears turning, right?
Yep.
So, from a market perspective, we chatted a little bit before about how you're starting to kind of explore more tools to really build up that market knowledge. Um, what has your experience been like integrating technology, integrating more data sources in with your boots on grounds? I walk these streets knowledge. Do you have any favorites you're
Like a
using?
Bob Knackle thing. I actually talked to him about it a couple months ago, and I'm been so slammed, but I want to start doing that. I want a map room of Kansas City. I want to do the same thing Bob
Ooh.
did of a map room of Kansas City. What I'm still trying to figure out is like what value it could create. It'll obviously be worth a lot in the sense of the value and like market understanding, but especially considering I am in development, I'm only focused really on like housing and things like that, like what all that information, what the end goal with it is, but I want to start it. I want to do it regardless.
Mm,
Cool, been badass. I mean, we're starting to use Deal Nav. So I just hired a development associate, Colin. He's a new grad, so smart, and has been a huge weight off my shoulders in terms of just the day to day random things that you have to do as a developer. And one of the things is, hey, we need some systems. I do not want to keep using Excel to track everything. So we're implementing Deal Nav. We're starting to use Crexi more to find different listings and things like that, of just educating ourselves on the market.
mm,
Started using Monday.com. Still trying to get used to it. Don't really know how it works, but we're working on
yeah.
it. That one more so to track our acquisitions because we're obviously still looking for stabilized deals to buy,
Mhm,
things that can help put cash in our pockets and have cash flow. And obviously,
mhm,
we have investors that don't want to do development projects; they only want to find those deals. So
mm,
that's great. Monday's been great to help source those different buckets. AI has been great. ChatGPT. I don't. It's weird. I haven't used Google in like 2 months. Like if I think about it, maybe like here and there, but seriously, like if I have a question or like I'm going to ChatGPT. It's just
yeah. Google's not even letting you use Google. Most responses now are just it's Gemini
yeah,
answer, and then you
wild.
have to scroll down if you wanna find, like, a website you're looking for.
Yes, yes, it's
Yep.
crazy. So like I mean, I think that if that's the other beauty about being young, and I put that on our website, and it's one of our core theses of youthful innovation. We're not bound by the ideologies of the past. I my saying is that Molzer Development, we want to challenge the status quo. We're not living in the
Mm,
status quo. We're not living within the rules. We're rewriting the rules. We're making our own rules, and we're challenging the status quo. And I think the beauty of being young and innovative is we can constantly learn and adapt and take on those things
mhm,
immediately. Where traditionally people don't. They like to stick with their ways, and it's like, well, this has worked for 50 years. I'm not changing. It's like, cool. See you, and it worked. Godspeed. But
yeah.
I'm going to take a little different approach.
Yeah, I mean, we're at a flux point
Yes,
currently as
things are
an
changing.
industry, and there's a lot of interesting things coming online, ways of doing things, ways of doing social media is a perfect example,
Yeah,
right? That did not exist 20
exactly.
years ago, and
My
it's
whole thought
completely
with social
revolutionized your
media is I
business.
tell people there has never been a point in the history of time where you have access to millions of people within the click of a button. So why the hell are you not utilizing that to your advantage in any business
Mhm,
you're in? It's insane to me. How people are like, no, I don't do that. I don't want my face out there. It's like, that's crazy. But you're trying to grow your company, right? Like, yeah, I'd love to do this and sell it for 8x EBITDA. Cool. Then why are you missing out on millions of people within the click of a button? That's
mhm,
just insane to me.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, those millions of people include people from like BlackRock, people representing institutional capital that are getting just direct access to the work you're doing. So, from that perspective, are you seeing just, and you can speak to your own experience or more generally what you're seeing. Are you seeing more institutional players become interested in Kansas City and what's going on there? Is it still
Yeah,
more?
we have a couple larger institutions that are getting ready to break ground on some absolutely massive projects. I don't know if I can talk about them. If they were on here and they want to talk, they probably could. I just know
Sure.
about them because I'm close with them. But um, that will probably be one of the first. Obviously, Quarters Companies has been investing in Kansas City for a long time.
Mhm.
One Light, Two Light, Three Light, Midland Lofts, KCP&L. But there are a couple other larger players that I think will get people pretty excited that are getting ready to invest billions of dollars into Kansas City. I mean,
Mhm.
Panasonic is building out their just finished their $10 billion gigafactory plant. Google wants to invest and build $100 billion plant here in Kansas City, which
Jeez.
I can't even comprehend how much $100 billion is.
A
Uh,
data center or an off?
yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Whew.
like $100
You
billion
got the
dollars.
Mississippi close by, right?
Yeah, I mean, Kansas City just needs to get back to its roots. I mean, we're the center of the United States. We're the gateway to the West. We should be a logistics hub. We should be
Mm,
It's a 3 hour flight wherever the hell I want to go. I want to go to New York, great, 3 hours. I want to go to California, 3 hours. I mean, anywhere you go, it's 3 hours.
mhm,
So getting back to those roots, and I think that as climate and things continue to shift and change, both from a political standpoint and just macro economy standpoint, I think more eyeballs are getting shifted on the Midwest and honing in on what those Midwest cities are. And
mhm.
I think Kansas City is ripe for being up there.
Sure. And then, if you were to look into your crystal ball, what is your like most bullish prediction or maybe unconventional prediction for what the small to mid-sized development market is going to look like in the next 5, 10 years?
I think that you will continue to see shifts inward into tier two, tier three, tier four cities. Larger development projects happen there, whether that be build to rent, more apartments, high rises, things like that. Because I do not see the housing problem going away. I think housing, and when I say housing, I mean single family homes, are only going to continue to get more expensive and price out my generation. And I don't think the income is going to continue to rise at the levels it needs to. Therefore,
Mhm.
people are going to be living in apartments and needing to rent. And I think that over the next 15 years, I'm going to look back and realize, damn, I was right. I wish I built more. That's where
Mm,
I counter people like on Twitter that argue right now is a bad time to develop. I completely, in every way, shape, or form, disagree with them. I think if you can start construction right now in the next 12 months, I think you're going to be sitting in an unbelievable spot in the next 3 years
mm.
because there's no supply, there's nothing getting built. And people are continuing not to be able to afford a home, can't afford the mortgage. The mortgage is higher than what the rent would be. Then they also don't have the down payment for the house. And
All
also,
the fixed costs,
we can talk about the
taxes,
social aspect
insurance.
too. People my age, and didn't used to be like this. Obviously, it was the opposite. You talk to people my age, a lot of them don't want to own a home. They're like, I'm good. Like, I'd rather have the flexibility to rent or, go and travel or go do this versus back in the day, the American dream was go buy a home, pay down your mortgage. And at the end of the day, 90 something percent of Americans' net worth comes from home ownership. And I think that we're going to see a huge shift in that not being the case.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see a shift in people's net worth coming from them starting their own businesses or
Mhm.
making money through e-commerce or online platforms, things like that. As
Or
technology,
assets,
yeah,
investing. Mhm.
exactly. As technology and AI continues to evolve, where there's just not going to be as much of a need. Granted, you're always going to have people that want to have that. Like, I would love to have a house one day. I don't want one right now. I could afford a house. Cool. Don't want one. I want to keep
Mhm.
having the flexibility to rent and move around. Since I joke that my apartment I have right now is basically a hotel. I'm never there. Um, I like
Yeah.
that flexibility, and I think that that is going to be continue to be more of a cultural shift. And I think we'll start to
Mm.
see that. And again, I think in the multifamily space, I think people that understand that are gonna do well.
Yeah. I have so many thoughts about this, and I agree with you, and we should keep talking offline because I wanna be mindful of your time.
Yeah.
But before I let you go, I do have a couple rapid fire questions
All right.
that I'd
So
love to shoot your way. So real quick, boom, boom, boom type of answers. If I were to hand you $50 million today and you had to invest it in a project immediately, where are you parking that capital? Why?
do I need to give anyone any money back? Like, does that matter? Or is it just
You
here's
full
50
50.
million,
Yeah,
Godspeed?
I gotta use it.
I would. there were so many different parcels of land in Kansas City that I would buy. I would hold on to some of them for the time being, but then a lot of them I would go and build vertical right now. Um,
Mm.
there's some good ones. I can't share where they are because I don't want people swooping in and taking them. But
Your
there's
secret spots.
yeah, there's secret spots that I think that those areas are going to. They're not there yet, but I think will blow up in the next 10 years.
Mm.
So I think it's a good.
Alright, well, book
If
a
I don't
call
have
with
to worry
you.
about making people money for a little bit of time, then that's what I
Yep,
would do.
totally. Yeah, well, they can DM you if they wanna get in on the action there.
Like,
What is the craziest way you found either a new investor, a new client, someone to work with you on a project? What's the craziest way you've formed that relationship? And it
so
might be the food
yeah,
poisoning answer, but
yeah, I mean, my partners on the Aladdin, I met through Twitter. That's cool. I think cooler story is when I was working at my old firm down in Tulsa. We were working on a project, and I was down there spending the night, and I was like, I got bored, so I went to Hard Rock Casino, and I was playing blackjack, and I was talking with this guy sitting next to me, um, talking about real estate, blah blah blah. Next thing you know, he owns this building downtown, and fast forward a year later, we bought the building because I met this guy playing blackjack. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
So my
There
advice
you
to
go,
people is
kismet.
if you want to do business with people, then go play blackjack at your local casino, and you're bound for success.
Learn the rules, learn blackjack,
Yep,
learn golf. I'm actually gonna take a golf lesson, my first golf lesson in a couple weeks here. I'm really excited
there you
about
go.
it.
Golf.
Yeah, but put yourself in those, for those that
Always,
serendipity to
never say
happen.
no. You never know what room you could put yourself in. I mean, I remember a couple weeks ago I said yes to go look at this property, and it was not a good looking property. I was like, whatever, I'll go look at it. I
Mhm.
never know what you can learn. And from that has led to conversations about information I found out there that are leading to hopefully further conversations about potentially my next project, which would be cool. It's like I
Mm,
remember I told Colin, the guy I hired, I was like, sometimes you have to say no, but otherwise you never know what room you could get yourself into by just saying yes.
absolutely.
Never know.
Absolutely. And then finally, what is the most common misconception about your job as a developer or commercial real estate in general?
I think as a developer, the most common misconception is that you need a lot of money to start. Again, you don't need a lot of money to start. I don't have a lot of money. I don't have any money. You just need the right people. You need the right support system, friends, family, and then you need the right people aboard your team. You need your Max, your Hunter, your Ben, your Joe. You need your subs. You need everyone that can believe in your vision, and you need to have confidence in yourself. And at the end of the day, some people they shouldn't be a developer. Some people should not. Some people should go work for one, and that's great. We need all different types of people out there. But if anyone has any interest in being development, we need a lot more developers. There's no such thing as competition in development. I don't view. I think we need a lot more of them. So anyway, I can help create the next housing or anything in development, create the next developer. I'm happy to do so.
Awesome. I mean, hey, where can people reach out if they want to get in touch with you?
Yeah. I'm on LinkedIn, as Zach Molzer, and then Instagram is big time right now. Molzer Development, that's been popping off. All the videos are a good mix of fun and educating. And then Twitter is Casey Molzer. Then the um, website's just Molzer Development. But this was awesome. I really appreciate you guys. Everything you're doing at Crexi is awesome. Hosting the gala was sweet, being a sponsor of that, and looking forward to finding different ways to work together and close some deals.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Zach. We really appreciate you coming on. This is so much fun. I'm excited to continue our conversations offline. Maybe we'll have you back for a round two once the Aladdin's all done. We can
Let's do it. How about
get a
live?
virtual walkthrough.
How about live at the
But
Aladdin? I'm telling you, our opening party at the Aladdin, we're trying to set a date for it right now, but I would soft circle something in August of next year, and it will be basically an open house. Everyone on Twitter's invited,
oh my
and it'll
gosh,
be a mad scene. So you guys are coming to
I'm
that.
in August
It'll,
2026.
yeah, August 26th.
Okay, blocking it off.
Yeah, it'll be. I'll date from soon.
Awesome.
Hopefully, the next couple months we'll have a date figured out.
Knock on wood. Knock on wood. Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Zach, again. And thank you everyone who tuned in today. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't miss the next one. Visit crexi.com/podcast and sign up to get the next episode delivered straight to your inbox. You can also subscribe to the Crexi Podcast on your favorite podcast app or check out our YouTube channel for video recordings of each episode. Take care and be sure to tune in next time.